अपनी साइड जो बनाई है उसके लिए। Hello everyone, good afternoon. This is Zafirul Haq, host for today's session. Welcome everyone to the webinar session for Safetica DLP sponsored by Wellres. The key point for this webinar, brief keynote, how Safetica evolved in recent year and what you can expect from Safetica will be presented by Mr. Naresh Kumar, a regional sales director in Safetica. Technical presentation, installation and hands-on session will be presented by Mr. Kumresan. Mr. Adam, technical consultant in Safetica, and Mr. Milos, senior security consultant in Safetica, will share some best practices for Safetica around the globe and will take care of Q&A session. I want this session to be very interactive, so please raise your hand and chat if you have any questions. We will enable the mic for you, and also you can put your questions on chat. We will be starting the session just in 5 minutes. Thank you. Yeah, we are just waiting for new attendees to join with us. Just give us a 5 minutes, then we can start. Very good afternoon, Mr. Manoj.
Online. Thank you. Yeah, hi, Mr. Naresh.
Hi there, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, great. Waiting for you to start.
My apologies, I just got done delayed with the call, so yeah, sorry for that. You know how things are over here. So we've got all the audience in. Are we good to start?
Yeah, we can start, and we have a few of them, and everyone is joining back. We are adding everyone. And Mr. Milos and Adam is also joined with us in the session.
Hi, Adam. Hi, Milos.
I need to unmute both of them. Just a moment. Yeah, Mr. Milos is live right now. You need to accept my request of unmuting it.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hey there.
Just Mr. Miraj, if secure, you can go ahead.
Okay, so you've got my slides, right, Kumar-san?
Yeah, we are on live.
Yeah, you've got my slides, right? I can start off with that.
Yes.
इतना करो ठीक है अब 1 मिनट बाद हेल्प नहीं करानी है मीटिंग शुरू हो गई है For the new joining, can you mute your mic, please?
Yep, I'm doing it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Waiting for Ms. Naresh to start.
I'm good to go. If you can just put on the slides on, so you can start sharing it.
Mr. Naresh, we do not have a slide at this moment. I wish if you could start briefing about Safetica and go ahead. And then
I actually did send you the
thing.
slides. So if you can just have a look at your email, I did send it back about 10 minutes. So maybe you can just upload that.
Yes, I'll do that. I'm just doing that. I'm putting on a slide back. Give me a minute.
पर केवाईसी तो सारा उसके वहां का यार काफी तो वहां का
Just adding it up. Give me a moment.
Sure, no worries.
वो आज दिखा दो शूज की आई है हां शूज की वो भी आ रही है एप्पल
Can you help on this, please?
मना कर दिया ट्रम्प जी ने What is?
Let me know when you're good to start.
Guys, we have some technical problem. Just bear with me.
Sure, no problems. that are leaked, insiders contribute to. Now, what that means in layman's word, it means that 80% of the business experience a security incident every year, and the average cost of a data breach is about $4 million. 2/3 of the companies, they go out of the business in 6 months of the major data breach. Can you move on to the next slide? So can we move to the next one? It's still showing on the same one. That's all right. So maybe what I can do is, in the interest of time, I can just start, just try to be a little bit more vocal on this. Now, from our experiences, we know that 80% of the leaks are caused by human error. And what is human errors? Obviously, people who are careless when they work with sensitive data. They are plain lazy, so they're looking at the easiest way to manipulate or transfer sensitive data. A lack of IT proficiency is another factor, and last but not the least is they're just plain lazy, looking for any better, and these are lost and stolen devices. Now, I covered the first part, which was basically in terms of human error. 20% of them are deliberately leaked. Now, these are people who either want to start up their own business, they want to sell data to a competitor, they want to leverage the data while applying jobs, or they intentionally want to harm. However, times are changing, and companies across the spectrum are changing their attitude towards cybersecurity. So who and how are we? I'm not gonna dwell much into this, but these are some of the very prominent recent leaks of data losses. And if you can look at it, these are quite a lot of reputed names. The likes of FIFA, Equifax, Uber, Facebook, British Airways, to name a few. Now, we've also got some really nice case studies on this, but I think I'm going to flip on to that given the interest of time. And I'm just going to talk about, about a couple of them. Equifax, just to give you a snapshot, one of the major credit card companies in the world, 3 billion turnover. For one employee's mistake, nearly cost them about 146 million of personal information, and they went burst. The other one, obviously a well-known figure, Edward Snowden. We know what he did, and he was also gloated in the movie. He had 200,000 files that were leaked to the Guardian, and that was one of the biggest cases as well. One of the other cases is with BM. I think in the interest time, let's just flip through that. Malaysian Telecom. Just want to talk a little bit about here. If you look at the likes of Malaysian Telecom as well as in BMW, it's a case where they were approached by the competitors in one instance, and in the other one they were actually poor handling of their data, which resulted in huge losses and contracts to the extent of billions and millions and billions of dollars. So if you look at it, data protection is quintessential for all the industries, whether it's manufacturing, healthcare, logistics, automotive, public sector, law firms, utilities, pharmacy, you name it. Each and every company has sensitive data, and this data needs to be protected. Can we move on to the next one? So who are we? Safetica, our unique selling point and our value-added proposition is we only do DLP. We're a Czech-based company founded in 2008. We've got 95 security experts. We are present in about 110 countries, which means that's pretty much about 70 to 80% of our footprints. We've got a US operation since 2016. Of awards and accolades, the recent being the Cyber Security Excellence for 2019. We were Gartner recognized in 2017, and we're also part of the Radicati quadrant for DLP as of this year. So what do we do? And how do we help? What we do is we protect data from breaches. We meet the regulatory compliance. We protect protect companies from human error. And last but not the least is the prevention of data theft. Now, during the course of this webinars, my colleagues will actually talk a little bit more about it. We'll even demonstrate on this. You also get to test it out. But before I actually talk about this slide, is to say that Safetica works on 3 simple steps. We audit, we educate, and we protect. Now, when you say we audit, what we do is we monitor the environment and we provide analysis results and reports on the loss of data, how was the data lost, what are the different breaches, who were responsible for that. We then educate by providing and presenting reports and results to the boards, CEOs, and the company owners. We explain how can they protect. And last but not the least is we also protect by applying data restriction and modules. This will be covered in depth during the course of the next 60 minutes. Okay, so we're good to flip to the next one. I already mentioned that our unique value proposition is DLP, but what we also do is we have integrated with some of the well-known vendors in the world. So we integrated with ESET for the Technology Alliance, which means they also sell Safetica solutions. We are Microsoft Gold partners. We've recently integrated with Fortinet, and we provide end protection for FortiGate, FortiMail, and FortiSIM, and to name a few of the other integrations that are there with Safetica, because Safetica coexists with all firewalls, AVs, communication, and multimedia apps. So this is in a nutshell on why data is important, what are the implications of a data breach happens, and what is Safetica and how can we protect that. Now, more elaborate conversations and more elaborate presentations as well as demos will be conducted by my colleagues. So, Kumar-san, I'm pretty much done from the opening point as well as from the sales pitch, and now we can talk a little bit more in depth.
Can you take over? I'm just facing some technical problems and just moving on with it. Zaf, you there?
We are facing just a technical issue. Just give me 5 minutes. Mr. Kumarasan will be back with the presentation.
A lot of technical issues at this moment, including multiple device failures. So this moment, what I will do is let me quickly start with the installation part, and then we're going to give a brief about what Safetica is all about, and then we'll take it through the server installation and the client installation and the configuration part. And then the session will be handed over to Mr. Milos, and myself and Adam will be taking up your questions. Yes? Great. As Ms. Naresh already shared with you, Safetica, we are into a DLP solution. Basically, we protect the data, we detect the leak, share the printable, customizable reports to the organizations. Uh, At this moment, when the numbers would have been higher, we target the customers from mid-size to enterprise customers. Safetica is almost available in 110 plus countries worldwide. As you all know about DLP, which is data leak prevention. Now, what Safetica is going to add value to it, or what are the advantages of using Safetica? We'll quickly go on to these points and then move on to the installation one. Safetica is basically takes care of it's a full suite of DLP solutions. It covers all major leak channels, and it's very short time to benefit. Which means the time you do the installation of the product, you start seeing what exactly happening on your organization, and it has high level of tamper resistant. Even when the time when you install the client on the endpoint end users, uh, it is impossible for someone to remove the client or remove the agent from the system. And mostly all specialty functions are covered against leaks, which includes print screens, clipboard stealing, virtual printing, file transformations, archiving, and all the encrypting functions. We take a holistic approach. At the same time, it clearly defines the data policies. Like, for example, you know where the confidential data is and where it's supposed to go. And with the time you specify those safe areas, and Safetica will automatically take care of it. And it tracks, the time of the product. It's not just, open doesn't mean that is actively used. And Safetica takes the activity reports by showing the, active time where the user visited the website or opened or used the specific applications. It also evaluates, by sending alerts. For example, if you set an alert of important data leak, you can put the alerts to immediately. Quickly move on to it and how it works. We have a Safetica management server, which includes a database, and that would be available on the right-hand side, which you can deploy it on in-house, or you can deploy it on the cloud, which merely we require a public IP to communicate to it. And we're going to install a client, which we call it as a Safetica client on the machine, on the end user system. Once the client is being installed, it will be easy for us to push the policies to the endpoints. And as soon as the endpoint gets the communication from the system, it will start collecting the data from the particular machine and is going to send the activities reported back to the server. Now, what are the components are actually required to do this? So right now we have few systems, which is going to be the maybe PC, laptop, it may be compromised with Windows or Mac OS. And in terms of Safetica management services, we prefer to have a server operating system. And to start with, you can use SQL Express database. If you have a SQL server, that also good. And we need to have a Safetica management console where we can able to log into the Safetica management server and collect the information and display it in a graphical and in a printable, reportable format. And the same Safetica management services you can have a multiple installation server installations in a clustered mode or maybe in a different branches, which all you can see it in a one single management console. Now, I'm talking about key advantages. Now, let's talk about key features. As you already know, that it's a complete data leak prevention, and it also gives you a trend and productivity profiling of an individual employee. Also, activity reporting. It also gives you email data leak prevention by, for example, you're sending the mail records to a wrong person or a wrong email address, or maybe your attachment, or you're attaching the sensitive files being sent to other users, that all reports can be generated. And it also does an application control with the time-based rules. It does web content filtering. Usually, web content filtering happens inside organizations where it is controlled by a firewall. Now, you don't require, even if you have a firewall, if the machine is outside your network, still it is protected. You have a print control is available where you can able to set quotas to the individual users or a department to track on what they have printed. Device control, again, it's again one of the feature which we talk about unauthorized device access. And maybe a common ports can be enabled for particular device or block them all of them. And again, the features includes the encryption management. We use BitLocker encryption from Windows. We do have an informative testing mode, to understand the what if situations. And the data classification is a wonderful thing where we can able to do it based on the path, based on file extension, file types or applications. And to do all the unified console which integrates and protects all the reporting and policies on the system. And moreover, that to add to that, it also inspects your SSL and HTTPS protocols, which includes your instant messaging applications and the secure connections. And it's very flexible to use and easily used. And these are the some of the advantages and features I would like to present in you right now. And what I'm going to do that is, and I'll quickly go on to the system configuration and the compatibility. What is required to start a Safetica server? For example, if you have a 250 seats, you can have a quad-core processor, 8 GB RAM. It is recommended to have a Windows 2012 server and with IIS 7.5 or a latest one. Apart from database and the operating system, you require .NET 4.5.2 or a newer releases. And now again, the sizing of the server depends on the organizations where we deploy it. The higher the organization, the higher the data we need to cascade it. For example, you can have Safetica management server on a one mission. You can have a databases on a one mission, Web Safetica on another mission, and you can manage it from any of your laptops, by using a Safetica management console. I'm talking about the client side. Minimum requirement to use Safetica endpoint client, you require around 2 gigahertz of processor, or 2 to 4 GB of RAM is what minimum recommended. Again, the .NET 4.5.2 or higher is required. With this system configuration, if I'm talking about the operating systems, Windows 7 Service Pack 1 or a newer version is required. Windows 8.1 supported, 10 with all Windows updates, or Mac OS 10 and above, it is supported by Safetica. We'll discuss about this, what is new in Safetica DLP 9.6, which is recently being launched. And meanwhile, if you could allow me, again, I have to move back to the another machine to start the installations. I would request you to give me 2 minutes time. Meanwhile, with this, if you have any questions, kindly put it on the chat and I'll be taking it forward. Thank you. I'm really deep. My apologies at this moment. It is not very pleasant. I'm going back to the server. I'm just sharing my server. Okay. I hope everyone sees my screen right now. If anyone confirm me if my screen is visible, then I can go ahead and continue the installation. Just a moment. Great, thank you. Right now, I'm going to call Safetica 9.5.8 version. This particular mission, for the demonstration purpose, I have set up with the 8 GB RAM with the 2012 server, and this also having a free space of more than 150 GB. Please understand, Safetica requires minimum of 100 GB of storage to start the installation. When I'm talking about installation, it's a very pretty straightforward approach. You just need to start the installation, but when we are beginning the installation is going to give us both two options. One is an automatic installation, another one is a manual installation. I'll tell you why both the features are required. As I said in the before, Safetica comes with different components. The components include Safetica management services, and it also includes Safetica management console, web Safetica, and the agents that we're going to do it. Now, consider the situations like if you have an organization with around 100 endpoints that you would like to manage. Now, SQL Server always has a basic limitations of only 10 GB of storage. So the more and more data collection you do it, the database is going to go, it's going to increase. Then you need to move on to a regular database server. So, and at the same time, you don't need a specific or a dedicated SQL database server for Safetica. You can use your existing SQL database server just by creating another, database part on existing server. So quickly, I'll go ahead. If I talk about installation, going on to the manual installation, in the Safetica management console services, I can extract the installation. Just a moment. right? The installation is pretty straightforward. Installation is already started. Just a moment. Okay. As I already installed that application, I just need to go ahead and do the reinstallations once again. I apologize, it is not allowing me to complete the installation. Okay. Zafirul, can you help me in muting the participant, please? Okay, let me go ahead and try the automatic installation. Yes. The time you put automatic installation, it's going to ask you one simple question like what would be the your username password for Safetica console. Specify your desired password. And through the process of installation, it will install SQL Server Express 2016 if you have not installed on the same server before. This process will take approximately around 5 to 10 minutes. Depends on the installation process. I'm just installing the process again. Just give me a minute. I'm just connecting back.
Yes,
Mr. Zaf, you're there online with me? Zafirul?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. May I?
Adam, yes, Adam, please, I would request if you could take it through, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, I will start sharing my screen and I will show you all the install and the features that we have that I think will be very beneficial for you. Please just give me a second. I will start sharing my screen right now.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you.
All right, can you please just confirm you can see my screen? Kumara-san, would you be so kind and confirm if you can see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes, you can.
Okay, we can see the Safetica console, right?
Yes.
All right. So thanks everyone for joining. Let me quickly tell you about the main features that Safetica have and how we can help you to not just protect the data, but identify them. So Safetica is really a simple client-server-based solution that Kumarastan already described the architecture. Let me talk about the main features that we have. So first of all, we have the auditor. Thanks to the auditor, we can see what's happening on the computers where Safetica is installed. This tool allows us to identify dangerous patterns in the user's behavior and then use findings to set up the DLP rules correctly. Now, as you can see, we have different functions, the auditor, so we can see all the applications that are running on the computers. We can see how the users are utilizing their time, what they are actually doing. So, for example, in here, I have aggregated the results based on the application category. And now we can see which categories of applications are used the most. This can not just be then used to calculate the overall productivity of the users, but also it can save you the money by seeing how much of your expensive licenses, for example, for the CRM, SAP systems, are used. We can also see all the devices that are connected to the computers with the Safetica. Some of them, they are not so important to you, such as the mouses and the keyboards. But what is important are the mass storage devices. We can see all the devices that are connected, and we can then use the rules in the DLP to set the restrictions, what the users can do with them. May I just ask Kumar-san, I can hear some background noise. If you will be able to mute the person.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that, sir.
Okay, great. So, obviously, another big topic are the websites. We can see not just the web categories that the users are visiting, we can also aggregate these results and change the filters as we can see fit. So, for example, if I would like to see the most common visited domains, I can do it in here. From all these records in the auditor, you can create automatic reports and also connect some alerts to how much time the people are spending or particular websites, web categories, applications, etc. Let me just quickly go through the other parts of the auditor, and then we will move into the DLP. So, in the print section, really straightforward, we can see what's being printed. And it's not just important in terms of the data security. It's also important in terms of saving the IT resources of the company. So, for example, I have applied a simple filter in here. I wanted to see what are the biggest documents, the documents with the most number of pages that were printed in the specific time period. And I can see that the biggest ones were 54 pages, and the document name are invoices. So I don't see an issue in here in terms that the employees are using the company's resources, the company's printers to print their private. Is a schedule that allows us to see how the network is being utilized, what is the network traffic, and which application is responsible for that. For example, we can see the application responsible for the data flow is the Toto Commander. However, right on the second spot, we can see the uTorrent application. Now, this is an application that definitely should not be used on the company's laptop, not just because of the overutilizing the network, but most importantly because those torrents can consist of a lot of malicious or malware software. Now, if I expand these records, I can see exactly at which time this application was causing this network traffic and who is responsible for that. So we can see that the Mary Parker on her PC was using the uTorrent application. Now, these findings in the auditor, they are nice, but we need to have some tools to restrict users from using or accessing specific application or website. For that, we have a supervisor module. This module is really straightforward. We don't need to go into the details. I don't need to show you. What it basically does is you can grant or deny an access to launch a specific application or the whole application category, such as the file sharing. All these torrents, we can simply deny for the whole company with a few clicks and make sure that people will not be using them. We can do the same also for the websites. So we can choose some dangerous web categories and block them completely. Now, last two parts of the auditor, we have the emails and the files. In the email section, we can see the emails that are being sent, obviously, from the computers with the Safetica. However, I applied these two simple filters. I wanted to see all the emails that are going outside of the company and that contain an attachment. So now I can see all the emails that had some files attached and were going outside of the company. I can also click on the details to see where these emails went and also what was the attachment. And I can see a huge security breach in here. Charles Jackson was sending customer records to the domain outside of the company. So this is a huge security risk. And we can later on use these findings to identify and to set up correct rules to protect this from happening. Now, last but not least, in my opinion, the most important and most useful feature of the auditor is the files section. In the files section, we can see basically the life cycle of all the files. We can see which files are being opened, what are the main file operations. And my quick tip how to find out the most with the files is to use the filter destination type. If I filter out the destination type USB, for example, just by a quick aggregation of the results, I will see all the files that were copied into the USB device for the specific time frame. So I can see that there were some customer reports copied from the adult worker PC from his desktop into the specific USB. We can do the same as well for the, let's say, web. In this case, I will be able to see really quickly all the files that were uploaded into the web. And I can see there are 4 of those, some technical designs, so most probably really sensitive documents, and they were uploaded into the upload.mega.z, a file share website. So all this information from the auditor are not just crucial to determine the user's behavior and to save the IT resources, but also they will tell us what's happening and what is wrong in the company, and we can react to that by setting the correct DLP policies. You don't need to worry. You don't need to go through all the things in the auditor to filter out the results. You can generate a security audit report that will automatically highlight, based on our best experience and our use cases, highlight those incidents that you should consider. And it will also provide you with recommendations how to set up the DLP policies. So all you need to do is install the Safetica Auditor, let it run for some time to see how the users are working with the files and which applications they are using. And then you will be able to automatically generate this audit to see what's wrong. Now, let's move into the most important part, the crucial part of our software, which is the DLP. I will try to be quick because we are kind of a timeline. However, I would like to describe what all can be achieved with the Safetica DLP, how the files can be protected. Let me divide the DLP section into the 2 main ones: a simple DLP and an advanced DLP. Simple DLP features provide an options to control specific channels, such as the devices or the disks. And the advanced DLP we are not protecting the whole channels. We are identifying and protecting only specific sensitive files, which is something that is very important. And every company, as Kumar-san and Naresh mentioned before, have those sensitive documents. We do have a simple centralized way how to manage Windows BitLocker encryption. We are not an encryption tool. However, based on feedback from our customers, we can see that it may be really difficult for the user to set up its encryption policy. So what we offer is a simplified centralized management, so you can encrypt BitLocker disks with the Safetica with just a few clicks, by choosing the required policy and then applying this to the required part of the user tree. Really simple. We can do the same also for the BitLocker devices. We can select some of these devices that were previously connected to the computers with the Safetica, or we can add them manually. And we can assign this device to the specific part of the user tree and ensure that only those people will be able to use it. And we can encrypt this with the BitLocker to make sure that this device will not be able to be used outside. Now, moving on into the device control, it does exactly what it's described. It's pretty self-explanatory. It controls the devices. We do control the devices based on the ports. So as you can see, for example, we have the USB port that we have set to deny. This does not mean that the whole port will be denied. This only means that those devices that are connected through the USB that have an internal storage, therefore then those that can be used to get the data out of the company will be denied. So any other devices such as keyboards, mouse, headphones, etc., all these the employees will be able to use even with the deny settings. However, external drives, USB pen drives, flash drives, those kind of devices will not be able to be connected to the system and to be used to get the data out of the company. Now, you may have noticed that we have an allowed zone in here. This works as an exception against these general settings. So these 6 USB mass storage devices are company's devices. They are used in the company, and we have also used the BitLocker encryption to secure them. So we have allowed them, and they make an exception. So by these settings, the whole company will only be able to use these 6 USB mass storage devices that are protected and encrypted, and any other USB mass storage device that will be connected to the computer with Safetica will be simply denied. Now, moving on into the discard. This is a really straightforward feature that allows you simply to grant or deny an access to the specific local paths, network paths, local drives, and cloud drives. This main purpose is to set the rights to access specific network paths and to use the most common cloud drives. However, this is just for the purposes of this demonstration. Most commonly, you don't want to restrict an access to the local drive of the computers, because what is in the local drive is actually secured. We in Safetica, we focus that the data that are in the computer will not leave the company. We don't really care if there is not really a point in denying an access to the specific folders on the local path. All right. Now, before we move on to the advanced DLP, let me just quickly show you the zones. I have been mentioning this when I was talking about the device control. However, what do we have in here is more advanced zone settings than just in the device control. Because yes, we can set up the exceptions for the devices. However, we can also do so for the printers, for the network paths, IP addresses, web addresses, and emails. Now, this is really important to do to define this company's safe zone, the company's safe perimeter, before we actually set up the DLP rules. Because Just a simple example. You have sensitive files. You will identify them with Safetica. I will show you how to do it later on. You also apply a DLP policy that I will be showing to you to protect these sensitive files, not to leave the company via the email. However, you need to give an option in most cases to the employees to be able to send these sensitive documents to each other, to send it to the company's safe email domain, to send it for the review to the supervisor, to their colleagues, etc. Therefore, you can choose either a particular email address or the whole email domain, and these settings then later on be used as an exception when we are restricting those files to be sent via the email. Now, before we jump into the DLP policies that I'm building the whole presentation up to, let me talk about the data categories for a bit, because you don't need any third-party classification tool in order to identify and classify the data. You can do all with the Safetica. And really simply, you just choose a new data category to be created, and you have basically two main options how to do so. You can categorize the data either based on the sensitive content, if they are including some social security numbers, if they have specific keywords, or the whole dictionaries of keywords. Safetica does have Safetica dynamic content scan. This service is running on the computer, and it will quickly scan the content of the documents to protect them to protect them from leaking from the company. However, not all the files can be identified just on the just based on the sensitive content. That's why we also have an option of the context rules, and these context rules can classify all the files that are, for example, coming from a specific application, that are stored on in some network share, or they are downloaded from a specific website. We can talk about it into the more details, but we don't have that much time. I will just like to quickly show you how it looks like. We have a sensitive content data category. We have configured this category, and the file will be considered as sensitive and a part of this category if it contains check or slope birth number, if it contains an IBAN, if it contains credit card number, or if it contains a keyword invoice. Now, the content detection does not only work for the files itself, it only works for the body of the emails. So, for example, if I would have pasted or just typed the credit card number into an email, and I would try to send this email outside of the company with this credit card number, the Safetica will prevent this from happening. Really quickly, I want to show you the second option, which is the context way of classifying the files. We have a top secret data category in here, and we can apply different rules under which these files will be categorized. Application rules, I've mentioned this. You have a CRM, you have an SAP application. You can simply mark all the files that will be exported from this application. We have web rules as well. You can set up your internet address, you can set up some web application, web CRM, and all the files that will be downloaded from this specific URL will be classified as well. And the third option that we used for this example are the path rules. So most commonly, you don't choose the local drive as we did for the purposes of this demonstration on this virtual machine, but you would rather choose a network path or a network folder to tag the data and to classify those data. All right, now let's move on to the most important part, which are the DLP policies. We have found out from the auditor what are the main security issues. We have selected the devices that we want to allow users to use. We have denied the others. We have set the zones to identify the company's safe zone. We have identified those files that are the most sensitive to us. Now, all that's left to do is to protect them. We in Safetica, our philosophy is that we want to make a DLP without a manual. You don't need a manual to work with the Safetica. It's really straightforward, and there are only 3 steps that you need to take to create a DLP policy. Let me just show you an existing DLP policy. This policy is named top secret, and it's related to the data category top secret. So it will only protect those files that are in the data category top secret. In the first step, we have just named the policy, choose the policy type. And in the second step, we actually defined all the different rules and all the different channels. Basically, we thought about every way how the data can leave the company. And you have this option to protect them with the policy rules. So since these are top secret files, we have chosen the policy mode to lock and block. That means strictly deny these operations or these transfers from happening. You also have an option to choose a less strict settings, block and notify. When a user will be performing any of these actions described in here, he will be notified, he will receive a pop-up that he is performing a potentially dangerous operation, and he can decide on his own if he wants to proceed or not. However, he will be prompted that if he wishes to proceed with this operation will be recorded. Now, we also have a third mode, which is to simply log these actions. So the end user will not be affected in any way. He will not be restricted from doing anything. However, you will have a complete overview about the life cycle of those sensitive files. You can either choose some of our policy templates to define the most common recommended policy rules, or you can customize, choose from all the options in here. Now, the last step is simply to choose to which part of the user tree this policy will be applied to, on which computers and for which users it will be enforced. Since these are the top secret files and these cannot leave the company under any circumstances, we simply chose the whole user tree. Now, as you can see, we have numerous DLP policies in here. And actually, we have 3 policies that are all related to the same data category. Because of these conflicts, we have set up a simple prioritization of DLP policies. It works same as for the firewall rules, for example. All the policies are evaluated from the top into the bottom. That means that these policies will not be enforced because we have already created a different policy that has a higher priority. Now let me quickly show you how it looks like from the end user point of view. Sorry. So we have these files, PDF files with the information about the patients. These are in the top secret folder, so we have classified them as top secret. Now, if I wish to open such a document, you will see that at the bottom right, there are some icons, and these icons tells us how this document is secured. We have blocked the sending via the email, network access, etc., and we also blocked the users from taking a screenshot over this sensitive document. So right now, if I wish to use a snipping tool, for example, and I will attempt to take a screenshot over this sensitive document, as you can see, the sensitive document is black. So I'm not able to steal this information. One more thing before I pass the word back is I want to show you one more option how to view the Safetica records. Apart from this Safetica management console, that is the brain of the whole operation, or where all the settings can be done from, we also have a web Safetica, which is a really simple. Let me just quickly switch to the English. All right, I'm back in English. So in this console, it offers a quick overview, especially for the management. So you don't need to install the whole Safetica console. This main purpose is to view the logs and just to have a quick overview about the data security, behavior analysis, and the IT utilization in your company. You may have noticed we have some exclamation marks in here. Actually, Safetica automatically identified 5 security issues. So you don't need to go through the auditor in details and check for all those filters as I mentioned. However, what you can do, you can simply click on the security issues. The results are automatically aggregated, and based on our best practice, we have identified these security issues. For example, there were 2 sensitive files that has been transferred to USB or external devices. I simply click on this link. The results are being aggregated. I can see the exact time when this happened. There were XLS files. One was sent from the Carl Mooney, second from David Franco. And if I scroll a bit down, I can see more detailed information. At these times, these 2 people copied the list of the employees and the list of the payrolls into the USB. So you have really different options how to proceed with that. You can set up a DLP policy to protect this from the happening. You can set up the DLP policy that will just notify the users, or you can just set the policy to log these operations, monitor them, create automated reports or a security alerts to notify the administrator that something is wrong with your sensitive data. All right, this is the most important stuff I wanted to share with you. I hope it was beneficial for you, and I will pass the word back right now. So Kumar-san, if you can continue, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Adam. Mr. Milos, if you can share. Hello. Hello, everyone. If you have any question, you can put your questions on chat. Mr. Adam will be assisting you for the questions. Mr. Adam, we have certain questions from teammates. They are asking, what are the security control options for mobile?
So for the mobile devices, we have a different product, let's say, that is called Safetica Mobile. Safetica Mobile currently is more of a MDM, mobile device manager. However, we prepared also some file audit and some securities in a reaction to the Android enterprise mobility management, and also iOS supervised. So what we can do right now is we can also audit the files, and we are working really hard to present those DLP features that you are able to do with the Safetica itself, as I was presenting, to the mobiles as well. We, apart from the Safetica client and from the Safetica software itself, we are also integrated into Office 365. So you can audit the file operations in the SharePoint, OneDrive, and also you can audit the emails on the Exchange Online, also from the computer and devices that do not have a Safetica client, which includes Safetica Mobile. And the first thing in a deeper integration to the Office 365, we have introduced an option for the Exchange Online to adopt the Safetica DLP policies restricting sensitive files to be sent via the email. So when you are accessing from your mobile phone, you use your Office 365 account, you logged into the email client, and you try to send a sensitive file that is protected with the policy in the Safetica, you can implement this policy also to the Exchange Online, and these emails will be protected also from the box.
Thank you. I unmute the mic, Anuradha. You can have a question.
I hope that it did answer your question. We can
yeah, thank you. Anuradha, I have unmuted your mic. You can have a question with Mr. Adam. I guess she's not listening. I have another question. Like, Mr. Adam, can we integrate with Office 365 also for the mobile?
Yes, we can. We can do this integration for the Office 365 for the mobiles. Currently, we are developing more features. As I said, the first part in the DLP protection is already implemented, which is to prevent sending emails with the sensitive files from the mobiles.
I have one more question. She's asked if a SanDisk USB driver is allowed and the user gets same model USB drive with same capacity, will he get allowed as it in whitelisted devices?
Let me just check that. Can you please repeat once more? If the user is using a device,
If the user is using a SanDisk USB and allowed, and user get the same model USB drive with same capacity, will he get allowed as it in the whitelisted devices?
Actually not, because this device has a different product ID, vendor ID. That's how we differentiate those. So each device is unique in this sense. So you need to set the rules accordingly to allow or deny the specific devices. It can be done for the rules, but if the devices are, let's say, the same type, it doesn't mean that they will be all allowed. You need to set it up manually for the device based on the product ID and vendor ID, basically what it makes specific and unique.
Thank you. Mr. Milos, if you unmute yourself and will you share some best practices for Safetica around the globe, that will help us to understand most about Safetica.
Milos is present here. Let me just take over. Maybe I can share the best practices. I just wanted to address a few more questions that I can see in here.
Okay.
There were some questions about how the Safetica measures the productivity and how do we calculate this. So, and also the idle time. So basically, we can see the active time of all running applications. And those applications and websites as well have a different categories. So for example, if I'm accessing the Facebook page on the through the web, this is in the category social networks, and the social network is in unproductive web category. Same as if I'm using an application, let's say some game, it will be in the application category games, and this application category is unproductive. However, if I'm using the email client is a productive application. So based on all these monitored data, based on the type of the application category or web category, if it's productive or unproductive, we can then calculate the overall productivity of the user. All right.
Thank you. Mr. Girish has one more question. Mr. Girish, you can put your question. He's asking, can we schedule a screenshot of a screen for our employees?
We do not have this kind of feature because this software is developed in a line with the data regulation, the GDPR. This may be in most of the countries a violation of the privacy of the employees. We can talk about this separately. If there will be a need for this, and if it will be in line with the laws in your region, I think we can discuss the possibilities to also introduce this, because our software, in a sense, would be able to capable to do so. However, we do not offer this into the versions because of the conflict with the laws that I was mentioning.
Thank you. I have one more question, and I guess it's the last question because we are running with a short of time.
Yeah.
Can we classify the data as well as using this solution?
Yes, we can. I don't know if you want to elaborate me on this.
If you can elaborate a little bit, that will be fine.
Yeah, you are mentioning doc document, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, no matter what type of the document it is, we can classify this with the Safetica. So we can use the two classifications. We can use the context one. For example, all the files, doc files that are in this folder will be classified or will be categorized. And another option is to use the content classification. We do have our content scan that can scan this document for the sensitive content, and it works completely fine for the most common file types, the docs, the PDFs, the XLS. No problem with that. It's a common scenario from our customers.
Thank you. So I guess we are running with a short of time. So I think I should drop a mail. If you have any questions, you can drop me at mail@safetica.co.in. Further, your account manager or the concerned person will help you for the further questions. Thank you, Mr. Adam, for joining with us. Thank you, Milos. Thank you so much for assisting us. If you have
no problem. My pleasure.
Yeah, if you have any question, please drop us a mail at mail@safetica.co.in. The concerned account manager and the concerned person will, from the team will definitely come back to you.
Yep, we can also help you out address those questions. So we in Safetica, we want to be involved closely with our partners to help them understand the product and help you to understand this completely. So thank you for attending this webinar, for your questions. It was very nice having you.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Safetica webinar session.
Thank you all, and have a nice day. Goodbye.
Same to you, Adam. Bye-bye. Take care.
No.